Nova Scotia's EMO asked to use the hall as a registration centre for residents of Portapique who had fled their homes. An RCMP officer was posted here in a cruiser. By this time, police were on the hunt for the shooter, who they knew was impersonating a police officer. At 10:30 a.m., 2 RCMP officers fired multiple shots outside the hall. Sources have told CTV News the officers thought they were firing at the suspect when it was in fact a fellow Mountie.
This program is brought to you in part by...
Why don't you get yourself some turned-down collars, Poirot? They're much more the thing, you know.
The thing, Hastings? Do you think Poirot concerns himself with mere thingness?
No. No, I see that.
The turned-down collar is the first symptom of decay of the grey cells.
You know, I just think if people keep pushing, I can't, first of all, thank enough all of the hard work. There's 3 fellow YouTubers who are working very, very hard with me on this one. Rage in the Cage, Steve LTT, and Just My Stupid Opinion. Just plugging them, sorry. But they are fantastic guys, really been busting their humps here. And, you know, stepping up to the plate, because there's a certain amount of risk saying certain things. And also, likewise, all of the people who are volunteering information and time, which is, like I said, over on the Discord or sending me anonymously information, it is fantastic.
Morning. Afternoon down on the East Coast. Almost afternoon in Ontario. No long weekend for me, just doing stuff. Lots of good information coming in. Hello, Point Fire, Kelly, Shano Vision, Aikichi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Rain Sack, Nova Scotia Citizen, Cap Nobody, and everybody else who's in here. I appreciate you coming by. Now, I'm going to read an article. Hopefully my reading isn't too bad. Bear with me, please. And I encourage you to go and please buy this. Okay. Now, I had realized that Stephen Mayer was going to do something. I, in fact, haven't read this yet. So this is going to be interesting. I was out at the store, went out of town. I do all my shopping now out of town because my microphone is on. I do all my shopping out of town right now because I will not, but this is my personal belief, and everybody, of course, can do whatever they do. But here in Calgary, we have the mask stuff. I will not drop a dime in this town until that's gone. Not one dime. Gas, anything. Groceries, nothing. And financially, people can take the hit, these companies. I'm very sorry for the employees, but I can't support it. I just can't. And frankly, I'm going to probably move to the ranch at some point, but the internet out there, well, don't have it. It's kind of in the sticks. Anyway, but the article is titled, I'm going to read it, but please do buy it. I'm using it as hopefully fair use. Hopefully I don't get a complaint registered against me. I have never spoken with Stephen Mayer yet. We do speak to common people, and that's why I was aware that he was doing something quite big in the background, because the last article he had published in Maclean's was the mistake article. I don't know, perhaps I can try and bring that up here. Give me one moment, please. Hope everybody's having a super day. Looking for volunteers to help me out on a couple things. If you don't mind, I dropped some requests in the Discord. I'd like to try and get it organized a little bit better into kind of teams and focused a little bit more, so we can get, you know, I don't know. I know what I see, but those of you that wish to participate, please let me know over on the Discord. And I did not include the link below because the links, I just realized, for everything are all broken. I thought it was just to my BitChute channel, which was fine because I don't want you, a lot of people going and seeing my other stuff. for right now. Let's see here. Stephen Mayer. Stephen Mayer. RCMP. Mistakes. Let's try that. Okay. So May 13th was the last article. Can I do this screen share nonsense? Yes, that's the one I want. There you go. So this was his last article. It was back in May. So he's been, but he's been busy. I know he's been busy because I talked to a few of the same people, same shitty day. Oh no, that's not good. Not good. Hopefully Linda has a better day. We want people to have good days. So I know he's been really busy, and I was kind of saying to a few people, and I may have mentioned it on here, I don't know, about, well, there's something brewing with this man. He's going to be dropping something. There's things I can talk about, things I can't. I never understand. See, I'm not a very big secrets person, but I try and keep them. I try and honor my word. So the title is The Reckoning, RCMP's Reckoning. Good collector's item. Want to support people because there's only a handful, as we all know. There is only a handful, and those who are really writing about this stuff and doing it know the handful. And then there's the other side. But then when you go to the actual article, it is titled The End of the RCMP, hence my title. McDonald. Dawn! Denture Dawn! What's he doing over there? Did I just post this morning? Okay, I'm behind on messages. It's going to take me forever to try and get back, so let's not try and do that now. All right, so Leon Jowdry. Leon Jowdry shuts his phone off before he goes to bed. So when he awoke in his Portapique, Nova Scotia home early on the morning of April 19th, he had no idea that 13 of his neighbors, including some of his closest friends, had been murdered while he slept. When he awoke around 3 a.m., this is good. So far, Jowdry had texts from his friends asking him if he was okay. He didn't understand what had happened, so he decided to jump in his truck and drive around the community. Ooh, this is good. Yep. And sorry, if I give commentary, I apologize. Verifying certain things I know on the side. So, in the darkness, he didn't realize that some of the houses he drove past were no longer standing, that they had been burned to the ground. He came across an RCMP vehicle on a road. Through a loudspeaker, the officers directed him to go to the end of the road. So far, so good. But did not roll down their windows to talk to him about what was going on. Jowdry instead went home to check on his dogs. The killer, by this time, was kilometers away in the community of Debert, but the RCMP did not know that. I will refrain from making commentary. Jowdry would like to know why the officers didn't talk to him. Quote, they could have saved a lot of troubles in my life if they have put down their window. Didn't they wonder who I was or where I came from? Jowdry went home, took out his shotgun, and sat in his bedroom with his two dogs. About 6 a.m., the common-law wife of the killer knocked on his door. She was barefoot and distraught. The night before, she had been assaulted by the killer and escaped. Jowdry gave her a pair of running shoes and called the 911. The RCMP showed up soon after. Quote, they roll in 3 vehicles, jump out. They come towards my house. They didn't call me out of the house. I could have shot them all. Jowdry's dogs, Basil and Iserman, ran up to the police. Quote, the guy had his gun right against the back of my dog's neck, just standing there. He wasn't paying attention. And these are Ninja Turtles, the SWAT guys. I said, get your gun away from my fucking dogs. He said, we're not here for the dogs. They took the killer's common wife away, but still, he says nobody told him what happened. Only a friend called. When a friend called, did Chowdhury learn that his closest friends had been murdered. He is haunted by that and has to abandon his home and moved away to cope with the stress. I drove around for 2 to 3 hours, the most confusing 2 or 3 hours of my life. With all my friends dead, I didn't know it. Now that I know what had happened, it was like I was driving through a graveyard. Chowdhury, a forester, with the DNR. He can't understand that the RCMP didn't evacuate the tiny community when the killer was at large. I fight forest fires. The first thing you do is get people out of their houses. You don't leave them. See if the fire gets them. He is unhappy with how the RCMP handled him that night and is upset that no one followed up with him. They didn't do anything right. Relatives of the victims, that's his quote, sorry, I should say quote unquote, relatives of the victims have similar feelings about the RCMP. After the killer left Portapic smoking ruin, he gave the Mounties the slip and drove on back roads in a replica RCMP cruiser to a welding shop where he parked for the night. In the morning, dressed in a Mountie uniform, he killed a couple he knew, then 4 random strangers, including 2 nurses, Heather O'Brien, Kristen Beaton, who was pregnant. Her widower, Nick Beaton, like many Nova Scotians, thinks RCMP should have used the provincial emergency alert system to warn the public. Quote, the RCMP are responsible for my wife and unborn baby's death as much as that lowlife, said Beaton. Quote, I can 100% guarantee that with the warning, my wife would be alive today. I can promise you that with every existence of my soul, she would not have went out the door, end quote. O'Brien's daughter, Darcy Dobson, is furious that it took the Mountie 7 hours to notify her family, that's the quickest one that I know of, that her mother had passed away. Quote, I pray that they fucking learn something, she says. If nothing else, they learned something because they made some horrible, horrible mistakes. I'm trying to tread lightly, but they dropped the ball in Nova Scotia. Dobson's father is one of the people who has proposed a class action lawsuit against the RCMP. When we need multiple ones, though. And the province, saying the authorities failed to protect the safety, quote, failed to protect the safety and security of the public, end quote. The lawsuit, it alleges that the RCMP returned a vehicle to one family with gun casings and human remains inside. Tragic. And the initial RCMP response was hampered by understaffing. That would be because they sent people home. The Nova Scotia shooting looks like a disaster for the Mounties. Slow motion wreck. Glass. Will grind on for a decade as inquiries, investigations, and lawsuits move through the courts. It was the beginning of a miserable spring for the force and its new commissioner, Brenda Lucki, the first woman ever to hold the job. Lucki will likely face difficult questions about how the force responded in Nova Scotia as long as she is in her job. 22 people were killed, including beloved 23, unborn baby, including beloved officer Heidi Stevenson. One officer was injured, and an unknown number are off with PTSD after sorting through the smoking ruins left by the killer. While that disaster was still fresh, Lucky had to face a long overdue racial reckoning as Black Lives Matter protests in the United States put the focus on police methods on both sides of the border. In the midst of that once-in-a-generational social revolution, Lucky struggled to respond to complaints about the systemic racism in the RCMP. Some First Nation leaders called for her resignation, while others called for an abolition of the RCMP. It is a political movement that creates a generational opportunity for politicians who have, for decades, left the RCMP to manage itself rather than insisting on fundamental change. Throughout, 20,000 officers across the country continued their work, most of them patrolling on the back roads, their morale hurting. And while activists in cities called for the defunding of police in rural areas where crime rates are higher and response times longer, many worry that there aren't enough police to keep them safe. This is a structural problem at the heart of the RCMP, an instantly recognizable symbol of Canada around the world. Its essential work as federal force is undermined by its obligations as an underfunded rural police force working on contract for provincial and municipal governments. Increasingly, it looks like the RCMP are struggling at both of these competing missions and are often a danger to both themselves and the public that they're sworn to protect. Sounds like something out of Palango's article. Since 1885, there has been one place where the Mounties are, a sprawling facility on the outskirts of Regina, the RCMP Academy, which is known within the force as Depot. It was here in 1885 where the Mounties hanged Métis leader Louis Riel in front of the mess hall, which was later converted into a chapel. The RCMP critics say the intensely hierarchical, oh my God, maybe I just don't have enough coffee. Give me some time. Sorry. And the change-resistant culture of the force comes from the paramilitary structure, which is drilled into the heads of cadets when they spend 6 months at Depot. Some people say Depot, which they are formed into, quote, troops, taught how to march, shoot, and arrest suspects, and learn the traditions of the RCMP. Quote, the task of the RCMP Depot is, without a shadow of a doubt, the inclusion. Oh my God, I can't see. I think it's the inclusion. Sorry, I can't see right now. I'm having problems. RCMP values, says Robert Gordon, a criminologist with Simon Fraser University. Quote, it's standard military practice of taking a group of people, you strip them of all previous humanity and rebuild them. So when the officer blows the whistle, they will go to the lip of the trench. It worked for 100 years. Worked 100 years ago. But policing is far more complicated now, and I don't think the military model is viable anymore. End quote. The roots of the system are in the force's history. Northwest Mounted Police, a paramilitary organization created to extend Eastern power into the plains. Sir John A. Macdonald ordered the force's creation in 1873, modeled on the Royal Irish Constabulary, after American wolf hunters massacred more than 20 Assiniboine people in the Cypress Hills in Saskatchewan. And in 1877, the force gave sanctuary to Sioux Chief Sitting Bull, who was fleeing the genocidal U.S. Army. But the Northwest Mounted Police was soon involved in military campaigns to repress Indigenous uprisings, both Métis and Cree, helping colonial authorities to force Indigenous people onto reserves where many starved. It enforced apartheid-style pass laws and helped force Indigenous children into residential schools, where many were abused and untold number died in preventable diseases exacerbated by malnutrition. Indigenous leaders say there is a bitter legacy of genocidal colonialism continues now. Since the RCMP polices much of rural Canada and also is responsible for national security, Mounties are typically called to clear blockades and to gather intelligence on Indigenous activities that resource companies consider a threat. They have brought in snipers to blockades in British Columbia and New Brunswick, military-style shows of force, quote, legal overwatch, in the words of the RCMP, that Indigenous people consider calculated attempt at intimidation. This painful history means the community policing carried out by the RCMP in Indigenous communities is hampered by mutual suspicion. Consider the case of Chief Alan Adam, who was knocked to the ground and repeatedly punched by an RCMP officer as he and his wife were trying to drive away from the Boomtown Casino in Fort McMurray on March 10th. Excuse me. Adam, the chief of nearby Fort Chippewa, was stopped because of an expired plate on his truck, which he had picked up earlier that day from the RCMP, who had impounded it. Adam was upset that the RCMP, which earlier had called him to pick up the vehicle, was now stopping him and his wife. That's a little bit more background. I didn't know that. Anyway, moving on. He took a confrontational tone, swore at the officer, and removed his jacket. Tempers got higher when the officer, for unknown reason, put his hands on Adam's wife, who suffers from rheumatoid arthritis. Another officer, Constable Simon Seguin, tackled Adam, knocking him to the ground and repeatedly punching him, putting him into a chokehold while Adam complained of police brutality. The Mounties charged him with resisting arrest and assaulting an officer and locked him up overnight. Okay? Are you, of course, familiar with the story? Sorry, I'll just get some pictures here too. It's good, you got the picture story. Okay, it was a pretty horrendous beating that this chief got. Pretty horrible. Again, I encourage you to go and buy this article. Please support. It's whatever collector's item. Then you can go through it, keep it for your reference. Senior RCMP officers, after reviewing dash cam footage of the incident, say the officers handled it properly. Quote, it was determined that the members' actions were reasonable and did not meet the threshold for an external investigation. When the video became public a month later, most people who saw it did not think it was the members' actions were reasonable. Did not think the members' actions were reasonable. It went viral, shaming Canada around the world. Climate activist Greta Thunberg, who had met with Adam, denounced the attack. Quote, I'm shocked by the shameful abuse by the RCMP. When the RCMP dropped charges against Adam in June, it was revealed that while Seguin was working, he was awaiting a trial on assault charges. His bosses, the same hierarchy that decided there was no problem with the way he had handled the arrest of Chief Adam had approved him to keep working while he faced charges. Hansel. The RCMP say it is reviewing, quote, reviewing, the question of why Seguin's charges were not publicly disclosed. In an interview with Maclean's, Adam says for him the brutality of the arrest was not unusual. Quote, I guess in the ordinary world of First Nation peoples, this is just a day-to-day arrest for the RCMP. Of coffee. Adam is not universally popular in Fort Mac because he has spoken out against the environmental damage caused by the oil industry and met with activists and celebrities who oppose the oil sands. He is suspicious that the Mounties want to get to him for political reasons. Quote, history showed John A. Macdonald put up the RCMP to go make their way to the settlers and the extraction of resources, he says. Coming from the 1800s, they did that to the Scottish and Irish peoples, and what they did is brought that same tactic to Canada. They used the same tactics to get us away from the land, and the RCMP has been imposing the systemic racism right from the day that it was founded here in Canada. They took action against Louis Riel, and it continues to grow. When does Canada say, maybe it's time to look at the police? End quote. The RCMP say the incident started as a routine traffic stop and was referred it to the Alberta Serious Incidents Response Team. And we've spoken about the shit in Nova Scotia. Alberta also has the shit. Lots of police. For an independent investigation. Quote, the employees of the Alberta RCMP have built positive relationships with the Indigenous and visible minority communities across the province, and we continue to work with to make those relationships better, says Fraser Logan, Alberta RCMP Media Relations Manager. Why do you need media relations? Sorry, give me one moment. I don't know. Better. Where were we here? Quote, while we understand that at the moment of this relationship, the relationship is strained, earning trust and confidence of the Indigenous communities in Alberta remains a top priority for us. Alvin Fiddler, Grand Chief of the vast Nishabi Aski Nation of Northern Ontario, called Chief Adam after the incident to check in on him. Fiddler, who helped build the Indigenous police force that polices 35 communities, with 160 officers, went across the country listening to witnesses of abuse at residential schools with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. He says a common theme was bad feelings about the RCMP. Quote, and it goes way back, to the Indian residential school system. They were the ones that came and snatched the children away from their parents' arms, from the communities, and from the community. Many of them are now in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even now, they're still pretty traumatized. Whenever they see an RCMP officer, because they remember, they were the ones that came to get them from their families. After the video of the Adam beating came to light, the Alberta Deputy Commissioner denied systemic racism within the RCMP. And then Commissioner Lucky said she was, quote, struggling with the same question. Under political pressure, she later acknowledged that it exists. Within hours after she had reversed herself on the question, Rodney Levi, a New Brunswick Micmac, was shot to death by RCMP. Lucky appears to have been struggling with the concept. At a meeting at a meeting of the Commons Public Safety Committee, June 23rd, Gatineau MP Greg Fergus, a Liberal, asked her for an example of systemic racism in the RCMP. She discussed a fitness test that is difficult for people under 6 feet. That this is an obfuscation. How you answer questions, right? You just change the topic. She discussed the fitness test that is difficult for people under 6 feet. That would be systemic discrimination. But I'm trying to think of other systemic racism, said Fergus. She could have mentioned that, according to an analysis of crime statistics by CTV, Indigenous people are 10 times more likely to be shot by RCMP. Fiddler was disappointed with Lucky's response. Quote, her first instinct was to deny, then her wobbling for a couple of days. Quote, maybe there is systemic racism. You know what? As a leader, you know. Whenever you are asked a tough question, your first response, that's your response. Lucky declined an interview. Surprise, surprise. Declined an interview request for this story. I bet you there's a written statement somewhere. Maybe a tweet. It's been a tough spring for the RCMP, which is followed by a tough winter, a tough year, a tough decade. A tough decade. The force seems to reel from crisis to crisis, repeatedly studied, analyzed, audited, sued, charged, convicted, found wanting by anyone asked to sit in judgment of its sprawling community policing empire. And it is an empire. And everyone, even the most faithful retired staff sergeants, whose identities are so closely tied to the red serge and the Stetson that they bridle at any criticism, thinks that the force has allowed community policing, the relentless demand for bodies in detachments to drain the organization of resources needs to address its core function. Federal policing. Yeah. Okay. The RCMP is responsible for human trafficking, drugs, national security, organized crime, and money laundering. Enforcing those laws is demanding technical work and not a good fit for many officers who are promoted after spending only a few years in the sticks. My cigarette keep going out. Now I'm pissed. One former Mountie who specialized on money laundering and national security investigations, who could not use his name because of concern for his his current employment, says he often worked with officers who were not equipped to handle the demands of the jobs, of the job. Quote, we'd get guys who came out of the north who just spent 2 years in one of the communities, and they were suddenly in the drug section or the market enforcement team or something, but with no particular skills to work in those settings. Officers without the background for the work would try to avoid it, he says. If you're writing a wiretap warrant, who writes wiretap warrants? You get a person with a grade 12 education, they're probably not equipped to do any level of writing. And, and so they try not to do it. They're just going to do whatever they can to get out of doing it. Sounds like Chris W. Don, you want to pipe in on that one? Canada is widely seen as a safe haven for money launderers because of legal loopholes and because the RCMP is not willing or able to put resources into the demanding and technical investigations necessary to track and seize dirty money. In testimony at the Cullen Commission into money laundering in British Columbia this spring, police witnesses testified that they don't have trained people doing the necessary work to stop criminals from washing their money in that province, where it is estimated to be a multi-billion-dollar industry. In committee on June 23rd, Liberal Brampton MP Kamal Khera asked Lucky about the calls to remove contract policing from the RCMP's mandate and rename the force. Under our own under our modernization efforts, like I said, no stone will be left unturned, said Lucky. Ooh, sounds like somebody. Who said that? Todd? Todd? Good call, Todd. Sorry, by bumping the microphone here. Quote, this is Lucky continuing. Quote, and one of them is to review contract policing, but I have to say, having now been in this position and being exposed to policing agencies from around the world, our model, as much as it's sometimes criticized, is the envy of most police agencies because of its flexibility and nimbleness in times of crisis or psychological garbage. Experts do not agree. Quote, the people who get shortchanged on this is actually the federal government because it's federal police force that spends most of its time, effort, energy, and resources on contract policing and what I call distractions from federal priorities, says Christian Luprecht, a professor with the Royal Military College, RMC, of Canada, who wrote an in-depth report on the Mounties for the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. The model with the federal government subsidizing the force in rural areas while municipal forces police cities means that the RCMP is stuck doing policing nobody else wants, driving officers into the ground. In Ontario and Quebec, where provincial forces are under the same regulatory umbrella as municipal forces, they train and work together more easily than the RCMP work with municipal forces. While the Portapique shooting was underway, for example, the RCMP called in officers from Moncton 2 hours away, rather than asking for help from the police in Truro, 30 minutes away. The officers did not know the area. Call logs released under the Access to Information law by Truro Police Departments show that the RCMP officer had to ask if there was a hospital in Truro. A Truro officer had to give directions to an out-of-town Mountie who was having a hard time finding the local RCMP building. It's not confusing why the RCMP from New Brunswick came in, right? Is it? Just like the twatter? Not confusing. Very intentional. A review of the Robert Picton murders blamed, among other things, the division between RCMP and the Vancouver Police, which meant Picton was picking up his victims in one jurisdiction and killing in another. I wonder if he mentions. I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to mention Campbell's wife, ex-wife. Very important in the Picton story. You know Campbell? Lion Campbell? Oh no. No, don't worry about that. RCMP officer. In Surrey, BC, the mayor has a mandate to get rid of the RCMP and start a municipal force. But the RCMP, which is about to lose its most important jurisdiction, is fighting back, with former Mounties leading the charge. In Alberta, Premier Jason Kenney is considering starting a provincial force. Blah, he's vomit too, but anyway, they all are. If the politicians do not stop them, the RCMP and its allies, including the Union and retired RCMP, are likely to fight tooth and nail to hang on to Surrey rather than to let it go and use the opportunity to beef up understaffed detachments across the country. Tom Taggart. Tom. The municipal councillor for District 10 of Colchester County, the sparsely populated rural area west of Truro, including the quiet seaside village of Portapique. His constituents rely on RCMP detachment in Bible Hill, a 40-minute drive from Portapique. Taggart was already raising questions about the adequacy of the police service in his community before the mass shooting. After the shooting, he asked RCMP to brief him on whether there were 6 officers on that night, as they were supposed to be, or whether there were 4. RCMP answered the question, but he is not permitted to share the answer with the public because the RCMP will only share with you municipal officials on the condition that they keep it secret. Well, we know then what the answer is. 4 or less, right? We're on that night. 4 or less. If they need to keep it secret and they were fulfilling their contract, they're not fulfilling their contract. Secrets, I got a secret. Everything's secret with them. Quote, there surely was not a full complement of officers on duty and able to respond that night, he says in an interview. Well, so Taggart's admitting, without admitting. He says in an interview, there were minimums and they are permitted. I can't say whether they were there or not. Taggart thinks the Truro Police Department might provide better service in his area. Quote, most of my concerns prior to April 18th around the value of money. That's not the case anymore. I want a service review. I want to understand, and we deserve it. If we pay for 6 officers on shift, that we get 6 officers on shift. Like, how many times has he said here what the answer to that question is less than 4 or less? Like 3 times, I think, in 2 sentences, 3 sentences. The problem for Colchester County, Taggart says, is that even if he convinced council to increase its tax rate to add several officers to allow for more regular patrols on the back roads, the county can't be sure that they would get them. Quote, the issue is the RCMP cannot, I'm absolutely certain in my mind, they cannot provide that service because they'll be stealing people from elsewhere. I don't know. interject. I wish I did. I do have lots of interjections here, but I don't think he's going to get into the business about how it's going to cost a shit pile more money, because their contract is expired, right? Has been expired, of course, because they're so all over top on everything. The RCMP have got their new contract in, even though it's been expired for months. No, they didn't. But because of the new union that the RCMP have brought in, it's going to increase stuff costs by about 30%. So a $6 million contract is suddenly going to turn into about an $8 million contract for the same service, the same shitty service, as in the non-24-hour service, the go to Colchester County, commit crime from 2 till 6, because there's no RCMP really on duty. Just saying. Taggart calls this musical badges, where the RCMP move Mounties around to backfill vacancies in detachments, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Quote, when the whistle blows, what officer is in what chair? Insiders have long complained that the force will list names on detachment rosters of officers who are off on medical leave, serving on peacekeeping missions overseas, or backfilling in other detachments. So they're saying people are there that aren't there. Oh, who was that? Somebody told me that. Yes, because I was reading about the Bible Hill detachment and said, oh, there's 70 members on there. And they're like, no. They're all off on leave and away. The parking lot looks like it's full, but in fact, it is not. We're off on medical leave, backfilling at other detachments. The result on paper, the force is at full strength, but in reality, rural detachments are chronically understaffed, which means the officers on the ground are overworked. Daryl Davies, a criminologist at Carleton University, says when he used to work in law enforcement directorate of Federal Public Safety Department, oh my God, they call it Mountie math. Quote, when I said, what's Mountie math? They said, well, Mountie math is the RCMP. They never tell us how many officers they have in any location at any given time. So I say, well, why? They say, for security reasons. Bullshit. End quote. Even when detachments are at full strength, the RCMP relies on fewer officers per person than municipal forces. A 2018 Globe and Mail investigation found that in suburban Vancouver, that most urban part of Canada, the RCMP still polices. Some detachments relied on one officer for every 956 residents, while Vancouver Police has one officer for every 494. That means an individual Mountie carries a heavier caseload and are more likely to patrol alone in a squad car, which is especially dangerous in rural areas where backup is far away. An officer in Great Village, next to Portapic, is recovering from serious injuries after he was assaulted in June by a distraught man. An internal public safety memo obtained by the Access to Information Law by the Canadian press found, quote, growing dissatisfaction, end quote, with contract policing from other levels of government. Quote, Public Safety Canada and the RCMP have confirmed that there are systemic sustainability challenges impacting the whole of the RCMP. And quote, the memo says, more vomit language. Get rid of it. They suck? Like, can we not just tell the truth here instead of making it flowery? To encourage municipalities and forces to use the RCMP, the federal government subsidizes the force by 10 to 30% at a cost of around $750 million a year. For cash-strapped local governments, that is a good offer too good an offer to turn down. 153 municipalities have contracts with the RCMP, Not sure that's going to continue. As do 3 territories and all provinces but Ontario and Quebec. But it's about to get more expensive. In 2019, okay, so he's going to talk about National Police Force Federation won the right to unionize 20,000 officers and reservists, and members voted 97% in favor of certifying. Of course, more money. They're seeking improvements to pay. Surprise, surprise. It's always that, like, oh, we want, I don't know, special something. No, you want money. Oh, yeah, we want more money. That's true. More dishonesty. They're seeking improvements to pay, higher staffing levels, and better equipment and training, which they can't use. Training probably would be good. RCMP pay and training, once the envy of other police forces, have lagged for decades. A starting constable makes just $53,000 a year. $53,000. Hey, Michelle. Not to single people, just saw that. $53,000 a year. That's not too shabby for high school education. I don't know if you even need high school education, but I think it is required. In Vancouver, where RCMP officers and other municipal police forces regularly cross paths, Vancouver Constable has out-earned bounty counterparts by $14,000 in 2019. A 2015 RCMP pay study found that RCMP officers isolated and fly-in communities received a $14,500 hardship allowance compared to the $21,500 for members of the Sûreté de Québec and $32,000 for the Ontario Provincial Police. Of course, it's conducted by who? The study. You always have to look at that. Well, it's conducted by the RCMP. Think you're going to tell the truth? Nah, like the shit. Fuck. Lying bastards. I hate this stuff. If you want to lie, then you contract that out to somebody independent. Much of rural Canada is policed, overworked, underpaid RCMP officers. They're also not always as well equipped as their counterparts in other police forces. Fuck, man, they're all carrying around big guns. All of them. Thanks, Moncton. Which they can't use. 2005, 4 heavily outgunned RCMP officers in Marithorpe, Alberta, were murdered at a remote farm. The force was told to get rifles for officers, but in 2014, when a Moncton, New Brunswick man started shooting at Mounties, killing 3 officers, were forced to respond with pistols. You've heard of bringing a knife to a gunfight? One Mountie told Global News. Here we are bringing a hand pistol to a rifle fight. Davies, the Carleton criminologist, was hired to help the Mounties buy new rifles. Oh, he doesn't have a horse in this race at all. No. He's only getting paid by the RCMP. He'll only get paid by in the future. You did good work for us there, Davies. Thanks. He says when Bob Paulson was appointed commissioner, he was skeptical about the plan. Out of fear of militarization of the force, Davies was chilled by how quickly other Mounties changed their view to align with their boss's position. He has since become a persistent critic of the RCMP. Whoa, okay, so he's going to bite the hand that feeds him. That's always the case with the RCMP. They don't seem to have very much loyalty when they turn, pointing to a mandate culture that is excessively secretive and authoritarian. Quote, the politics of the RCMP is a major problem. when it comes to trying to decipher and understand what is happening in places like Marathon, Moncton, Portapique, and so on, because of the secret subterranean nature of this organization, and voted most secretive law enforcement organization in Canada. Surprise. By the journalists. Oh, but they're on the run. Campbell reaches out to his buddy in Vancouver, reaches out to McMillan and the CBC. Months after the Portapique rampage, the RCMP has yet to answer many questions about the killer. The RCMP's failure to act on previous complaints about him, and the fact that for 13 hours he was able to travel around the province while the RCMP looked for him in all the wrong places. Wouldn't be any intent behind that. The force has declined to answer repeated questions from McLean's about a $475,000 withdrawal that the killer made from Brink's cash depository, which experts say has the hallmarks of a payment to an informant, something the RCMP denies. In interviews with the Toronto Star out of Vancouver, who was friends with Campbell, and we always need to understand this, and the CBC, the RCMP, two people. Break the whole system here to keep it up. The RCMP denied having, quote, a special relationship with the shooter, but did not explain the source of the funds. They denied uncovering knowledge of a special relationship. Very word salad. If you can't uncover something you already know about. The RCMP points to an ongoing investigation into the source of the killer's guns as the reason why it won't reveal more information about the killing. The Little Grace House. That makes sense. It is unlikely that we will learn more unless there is a public inquiry, which in the hands of the Attorney General of Nova Scotia, Mark Fury, a former RCMP staff sergeant, has yet to act. Okay, so this is a little older. The management problems that left Moncton Mounties with handguns bravely running at the shooter with an assault rifle is no one-off. Senior officers repeatedly found to have mismanaged other vital issues, often with great expense. 2019 investigation by Global News found that the quote, $220 million that has been spent in the last 20 years on everything from sexual harassment lawsuits to human rights complaints and federal inquiries into nepotism, workplace bullying, and turf wars with other agencies. A few months after the investigation, the force paid out another $100 million in the sexual harassment class action lawsuit. Yeah, no, they've been paying out money like it's just your money. Your shitty employee is paying out your money because they're robbing it from the till. This is what's going on. They don't tell you what's going on beyond that. The force has a long history of denying wrongdoing, aggressively rebutting, and smearing whistleblowers, Campbell's ex-wife, before being forced into humiliating reversals in court, lying in court, Truro, lying in court in Truro. Oh, okay, he does bring it up. Is he going to say? Is he going to say the relationship? No, he's not, I don't think. Let's see. Oh, when Corporal Catherine Galliford, a high-profile British Columbia spokeswoman with the force, sued after being subjected to sexual harassment by several other officers over 2 decades, to the point that she had developed post-traumatic stress disorder, the RCMP responded by filing a statement of defense alleging that she was an alcoholic. RCMP officers, lawyers forced her, your lawyers, your shitty employer lawyers, which you paid for, forced her to go through 11 discovery sessions, quizzing her about her sex life and personal matters. It ultimately settled with thousands of female Mounties and civilian employees. Okay, I'm going to stop for a moment. Catherine Galliford. Catherine Galliford. Who is Catherine Galliford? Catherine Galliford is a lot more important to this story than just, well, she whistleblowed and they called her alcoholic and crazy. Catherine Galliford. RCMP corporal in British Columbia, known for making sexual harassment allegations against the RCMP and being a high-profile police spokesman for the Missing Women's Task Force. Thanks for deleting the link, because we don't want to know about that, of course. No, not at all. Now they just rename it something else. Came to prominence in 2011, bringing forward allegations of extensive sexual harassment, misconduct within the RCMP. Chief among her allegations is the claim that officers in the Missing Women's Task Force, this was Picton, neglected their duties and tolerated a 3-year delay in apprehending serial killer Robert Picton. When asked to testify before the Missing Women's Commission of Inquiry, Galliford stated she would not be testifying for the RCMP, but rather on behalf of the victims. The individuals she named included Rob Nicholson, Canadian politician, House Commons, blah, blah, blah. The Attorney General of Canada, Ian MacDonald, a doctor in the RCMP, and 4 officers. Where did those big, huge doctor sexual suits go? Thousands of women? I don't know if they've settled that one yet. 1 month before the hearings began in 2012, the inquiry deemed Galliford too fragile to testify, citing alcoholism and post-traumatic stress disorder. RCMP, after Galliford came forward, the RCMP denied her accusations and sought to dismiss her from the force. This is how you treat good employees, right? Tell you the truth. I like people who tell me the truth, even hard truth. I like it, because then I can clean up. No. They want to bury. 2013, a 2015 trial date was set for her case, but this was later delayed to 2017. A class action lawsuit proceeded alongside hers and Janet Merlot. There's interesting videos on her on YouTube, which I recommend. Oh, there's lots of them, actually. I've got a good file. Has credited Galliford with inspiring 400 female police officers to join in. May 2016, Galliford dropped her complaint against Dr. Ian MacDonald and accepted a settlement with other defendants. She was subsequently given a medical discharge. Catherine Galliford has a son with her former husband, Darren Campbell, a sergeant major with the RCMP at the time. This information was released when her son, Connor Campbell, was arrested in September 2015, along with 2 others, for the murder of 19-year-old Langley resident Nicholas Hannon. Connor Campbell was convicted November 2016 and has called Galliford every day since the life sentence began. Galliford has stated that the effects of PTSD and agoraphobia prevented her from attending the sentencing. She later said, quote, I carry some guilt because after watching what I went through I know that he developed a mistrust for the RCMP, but I think parents are parents, and I think I was a good parent, and I know that. Darren Campbell, sound familiar? I'm repeating a lot of stuff, but there's so much stuff in those old videos. I understand they're really old and long. Lots of stuff in those, though. Darren Campbell. This is his wife, ex-wife. His new one is, he wrote, and then after this happened, you see, what year is this? 2017. Mr. Campbell, you know, the lion bag of stuff on TV with all the Porta-Pick stuff. Well, he rose ranks ×2 very quickly. Wouldn't have anything to do with his ex-wife getting thrown under the bus, disclosing the, what was this, sorry? Where do we go here? On the wrong page. Bollocks. Where am I? There's a name here. The RCMP responded with a defense that she was alcoholic. RCMP officers forced her to go through 11 discovery sessions, quizzing her about her sex life. Catherine Galliford had a son with former husband Darren Campbell, sergeant major with the RCMP at the time, who then gets promoted twice, very rapidly. Who do you think's feeding them information about the sex life? About the personal life? Wouldn't happen to be Darren Campbell, would it? No. You didn't just sell your soul. Did you? Look where your son went. This man has no conscience. None. Sold them information about his ex-wife to get ranks. And now he's the one that's lying to you all over the TV. Ouch. So transparent, all this stuff. It ultimately settled with thousands of female Mounties and civilian employees. Quote, harassment remains a serious and persistent problem in the RCMP, which of course they don't want to admit or talk about. Everything is fine. Just give us bigger guns and more money, so we can have shitty people at the top leading us. Said a 2017 report from Ian MacPhail, chairperson of the Civilian Review and Complaints Commission of the RCMP. Despite some efforts, the RCMP has failed to effect the necessary changes in meaningful or systemic way. Can we just get rid of that word, please? These words, they become part of our lexicon in the trashy people. Just throw them away, please. MacPhail said the RCMP has a, quote, dysfunctional organizational culture. What? More word salad garbage. The report also notes, quote, senior leadership of the RCMP has therefore demonstrated over the last several decades that it is incapable of making systemic reforms. Oh, this word. I'm going to vomit, man. Like, seriously, these words just that's fail. They don't even know what they necessarily mean. This is the problem. I just like to throw them about because they sound good and confuse people. systemic reforms necessary to effect cultural change on its own. The last real overhaul of the RCMP was made when Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre, ordered Royal Commission in 1977 after rogue Mounties were found to be playing dirty political tricks, burning down a barn, for instance, to prevent a meeting from happening between American Black Panthers and Quebec separatists. The Trudeau government eventually stripped the RCMP of its intelligence arm, and it should be, which it has back, Project Wide Awake 2.0. Don't worry about the guns. Worry about that one, honestly. That one is fucking scary. The guns thing was in works for fucking decades. Like, no, I shouldn't say that. It was in 2017, was it when it started? 2017, 2018, I believe. Well, you can go back to the Quebec Mosque and you'll find the articles on that. So it's quite old. No. What they wanted was underneath it that they didn't report about, because they won't tell you about that. Creating CSIS, the National Spy Service. Get rid of that too. We don't need spying on Canadian citizens. People are good people, and the shit will get weeded out. Since then, the governments have tinkered, but none have the will to force real reform on the national police by imposing a civilian board or separating federal and contract police. Can we stop with the bureaucracies? Just get rid of it. No federal government and no federal minister has seen a benefit in engaged in what is bound to be a very complex and divisive national conversation about the RCMP, said the RMC's Leprecht. Quote, because it goes beyond pear-shaped, they have their own, they have to own it. So one thing I always talk about, well, I talk about a few, obviously, as in character, responsibility, honesty. Really does come back down to the honesty. Because if you're really honest with yourself, right, then you're going to look at these issues, you're going to own things, you're going to be responsible, and you're going to affect change yourself. You don't try and smear, because that's dishonesty, into something else. In his report, Leprecht contrasts with the approach Jean Chrétien's government took after Canadian soldiers beat a teenager to death during a deployment in Somalia in 1993. Quote, unlike the political direction received by the Canadian Armed Forces post-Somalia, which entailed sustained monitoring of implementation for years. Listen, just because you can sew a couple of words together with some syllables, I used to have a fairly decent vocabulary, still not too bad, doesn't mean you understand the language. You're using words that don't belong together. This is why you see it rewriting all over the fucking place. Hey, Tara, how's it going? Politicians have preferred to defer to the commissioner to fix the problems in the RCMP without subsequent monitoring. Words out. Leprecht and other experts say it's time for Ottawa to stop pushing its police jurisdictions and get the RCMP out of contract policing. And Indigenous leaders want the federal government to properly fund Indigenous police forces and encourage more First Nations to police themselves. I'm fully in favor of that. They want to be, you know, there are not going to be any claims of racism. Lucky did praise, but they can't, they'll lose the money. They lose the money, they lose the power. They lose the power, they lose the operations. Quote, operations, the intelligence, data gathering, data mining, the bullshit that you guys all of us are unaware of. Some of us are aware of some, but I guarantee you, I have no fucking idea what the hell they're doing. They're into some major shit. Criminal activities all over the place. That's not the way police forces act. And good people who are law-abiding, well, they get the shaft. Because they'll throw you under the bus. No problem. I think that's really what's going on here. That's the silence, the cone of silence. It's a cone of fear. It's a cone of fear. RCMP officers are scared, really scared, to talk out against their fellow Mounties. I guess I just pissed off 3 people who are watching. 3 RCMP officers who are too brainwashed. Because there's good ones. Really good ones. Oh God, the shit that I have on my wall. I just was looking at something. Well, cases, open cases, I've got all over the place. Okay. Let's see here. Where are we here? Lucky did praise the RCMP's model when asked about contract policing. But she didn't answer Liberal MP's Care's other question about whether it's time to change the force's name. Ding, ding, ding. Todd called that one. Excellent. Because they're just going to rebrand it. Call it something else, give it more powers. The force has a global brand. Ugh. With the most recognized uniform in the world. Who cares? That's, quote, that's an attitude that served them well for years, so long as people in this country kept Dudley Do-Right at the front of their minds, says Simon Fraser University's Gordon. It's not a paramilitary organization that has a history of suppression of indigenous people in order to further its imperial conquest in North America. It's a Hollywood image that survived and that prevails. Well, I can name lots of uniforms that are kind of famous. Well, I can name one. Does that mean it's awesome necessarily? Some people would say big problems with that stuff, right? Just because you have a red serge or a black uniform or brown, a Hollywood image. That brand, the powerful image, which is so closely bound to our history, good and bad, seems to also prevent politicians from acting on rational bureaucratic analysis of the force. I'd say that's their bosses. Canada's true bosses, not you. That Brock says Canada should look to Northern Ireland, where the Royal Ulster Constabulary was renamed after the Good Friday Agreement. Don't get me going on that shit. Oh, fuck. To distance itself from colonial roots is now called the Police National Service of Northern Ireland. It's an important step in reconciliation process. What the fuck is that? Because you rename it? You rename it? That suddenly just disappears? No, it doesn't. That's history. Anybody with 3/4 of a brain and an asshole is going to remember changing names. Oh, there are going to be a couple people in here that know what the fuck I'm talking about. Changing names. Really common, isn't it? Isn't it? Common tactic. And all experts agree, have long agreed that the RCMP needs civilian oversight, a police board of worthies at arm's length from the government to run its service, like the ones that run every decent police service in developed countries, like the shit. Real independent. Not real independent, but says they're independent. All smoke and mirrors. It's all lies. Lies. When are we going to wake up? Lies are everywhere. Media, politicians, police forces, CEOs. This world is built and rewards lying and dishonest behavior, and people live in a fucking, you want to talk about a bubble? There's a bubble. They build these bubbles so we can live in them. Oh yeah, don't worry, everything's fine here. The world is totally falling apart, but don't worry. We got your back. You're not in debt. Don't worry, you never have to pay any of that back. Oh my God. The previous public safety minister, Ralph Goodale, went halfway to bringing an advisory board, which Trudeau incorrectly called a management board. You want to look around in the two boards that he passed. Here, oh wow, I've never spoken about this stuff, at least in respect to Nova Scotia. Mr. Trudeau passed some very interesting shit at the beginning of this that allows the RCMP to take over any case in this country in municipal forces, if he deems so. His little hand-picked board is one. What? Given the investigative powers, 2 hours cleanup in Enfield, 13-hour cleanup of their own officer, and cleanup investigation of their own officer, Mr. Weber, arson, accident, backhoeing stuff. Do you think these people are interested in ever investigating anything? Okay. The government could also reinvent the Civilian Review and Complaints Commission for the RCMP or replace it with a more powerful body. The CRCC only reviews about 250 of the 2,500 complaints a year, leaving the rest to be investigated by the Mounties. Is the food good? You know, it's like asking the waitress. I go to a restaurant. I'm like, is the food good here? And then I'm like, why? Why did I ask you that? Sorry about that. Maybe you'll get one or two in there that'll just obviously tell you the truth, but they're not going to say to you, yeah, the food is really shit. I don't want your tips. Please go away. I don't want my job. I'm going to lose my job. No, no, no. Conflict of interest? Thanks, remote. I never ask for likes, subscribes, anything. People do what they want to do. I do hope that, you know, it's nice. It's nice. It's a bit, does give you a little bit to work for because I don't fucking get anything. But I get truth, hopefully, and it's fucking coming around. So where do all those cases? They just sit in backlogs because do the math. 2,500 cases, and they do 250 a year, apparently. That's an interesting place to go into and look into their cases that they've investigated. This is the civilian body. So you have 2,250 cases per year stacking up. It's like compound interest. More and more and more. Do you think any investigation getting done here? No. Under the current structure, when the commission completes a review, it sends its report to the RCMP, who can sit on it for as long as it likes. The force now has 181 reports awaiting release. The oldest one, almost 4 years old, has to do with the strip search of a female prisoner. A report on the RCMP's response to the 2016 shooting of Colton Boushey was delivered to the force in January. Lucky says she plans on releasing it in the fall. Sorry? You got a problem with the internal mail system there? I'm not hiring more. I'm going to fire you because you can't do your job. There are signs, however, that the patience of Canadians is wearing thin. During Lucky's appearance in the committee in June, MPs were polite, but they did not look like they were buying what she was selling. This is the shit at the top anyway, and they're actually supposed to act like they're not liking it. They're supposed to act like it so that you feel more in your bubble like they're going to do something, because they're not. Tom Taggart, who has lost faith in the Mounties' ability to keep Portapique residents safe, plans to take a resolution to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities calling on the RCMP to modernize contract policing and stop playing games with its roster. He wants fully staffed detachments and officers who know the area. I don't care if it's Truro Police, RCMP, or OPP, but I want that change. I do not want someone who drives in here for 3 hours away and works a couple of days, fills a position, then throws his gear in the trunk, slams it shut, and goes home. Who doesn't know anybody in the community? Good guys or bad? Oh, that they do. Oh, but they do. They know everybody on an intelligence side. All the data mining. Or if there's a hospital in Truro, Taggart says rank and file Mounties who know the force needs to be fixed. Rank and file Mounties who know the force need it to be fixed. History suggested that only politicians can force the RCMP to change. No, that's people can force everything. Look where it's going. Look where you're going. That it will not change itself, but that it's risky territories for the governments because they don't want to. The RCMP investigations into Airbus, the sponsorship scandal, Mike Duffy's expenses, the SNC Lavalin. I don't know. How many more of these do you need? All threats to Canadian prime ministers, Aga Khan's trips, blah, blah, blah. Multiple Aga Khan trips. They may have explained why governments have not acted and why they may be reluctant to act, even though ought to be able to see that this institution needs to be torn apart and put together. It isn't just Trudeau. I wish. It isn't. It's that's how you get there. And it's the top. Trudeau doesn't need to go. Let's have a look at him. I was showing my girlfriend's I should go and get that. My girlfriend's daughter. He looks like he's having some problems recently. Here we go. He's got problems. It's really starting to. He's had problems all his life, right? These people get there for a reason. Look at him. The video of this I saw, it was really sad. He is really burning down as an individual. The evil is just getting to him. He doesn't see it, of course, but which is sad. I pity him. I do pity him. No, pity is not a very nice thing to say. Go away. I don't want your terms of service. Post media. Run from where? Oh, Jesus. But look at him. Even my girlfriend's daughter, 9 years old, not really, in touch with the world, or, she's doing her things. I said, do you know the Prime Minister of Canada? She said, yeah, Justin Trudeau, of course. To get pipe-fed a lot of stuff. I said, oh, I have a recent picture of him. Just thought I'd get your opinion of it. And her reaction was like, oh my God. Well, she didn't say that. She said, his beard is gray. His eyebrows, they look terrible. And what's happening to his hair? What is that? And I'm like, don't. You can only deceive people for so long. Who's somebody deleting messages? Sorry? Please. Oh, somebody's deleting messages in here. Seamus not going to be happy. Really not happy. Somebody's going to lose wrenches. Who's deleting stuff? Is somebody deleting things, or is it YouTube? Like, does it say so-and-so timed somebody out or banned them? I can't see. I'm sorry. Okay, Nova Scotia citizen, I appreciate whatever, but if I see that one more time and somebody complains about it, you're gone. You lose the wrench. I don't tolerate bullshit. Censorship of anybody is absolutely unacceptable. Period. I'm just saying, if I see it again, right? That's fair. Maybe, I don't know. We'll just chalk it up to something else. We'll just chalk it up to something else. Or if it helps, I'll just take the wrench away. Like maybe that will help. I don't want to punish you, give you punitive punishment for something that you didn't do. But perhaps it just helps anyway. Like, it's not like I'm going to be singling you out. I just, that's the way I am. Because I want to hear, and please don't, I'm not, YouTube does a lot of funny things. I get it. Oh, I do. I get it all too well. So YouTube can be doing funny things and saying it's you, and then it just causes divisiveness and stuff like that. And I don't want that. I want to get along with Nova Scotia citizen, just like I want to get along with everybody in here. And I want to hear everybody's opinion. Otherwise, I'm going to end up looking like that. Right? That's a problem. This man should be really, like, he has to be able to look at himself. He's got all kinds of people who take care of him. You don't. Sit there and do his makeup and paste on his eyebrows and do all kinds of funny things. And this is what they choose? Look at the guy. Look at the guy. Yeah, his eyebrows didn't fall off this time. He probably said that a few seconds ago, but I didn't. Again, I don't want to have a disagreement. It's just you know, everybody knows my position on this one. So let's move on from that. And I apologize if I'm getting angry at you unnecessarily. I don't want to be doing that either. Yeah, I was going to read something, but I'll give her a shout out later. My girlfriend's daughter made me something really nice. It's just a side thing. It was very thoughtful. And I was like, wow, you know, she doesn't watch, obviously, and I don't want her to, because I don't want to taint her mind, but she knows what I do somewhat. So, no, I don't want to be angry. I really don't. I have places I want to put my anger, right, and direct it. Now, there are some disturbing things coming to light that I do want to talk about. One of them is I need to do more homework on, but I find it like, if in fact it's true, it is absolutely next level. Like, so beyond my own like right up there. But actually, I can see it strategically, and I can see it how it panned out personally. But I'm not going to touch that because it could be very contentious. However, I will broach it, broach it somewhat, in a sense. Okay, so we've discussed the women's groups, the purposeful placement of the women's groups as a divisive tactic, as a there's going to be something coming around on something to do with that, but I'll just leave it there. But keep your eyes peeled, because something's going to happen. But the women's group and Linda McDonald and Jean Sarson, okay, back in the Discord group, that was the first posts I ever made. I don't even know how to use this damn thing, but the very first posts that were made in there, when there were 3 people, I think, myself, Adrian, and Steve, was about the women's group, because I could see what they're going to do. This was before they started into that too much, because it's all strategy. You're thinking 3D chess. So I like to think like that. What are they going to do next? What are they going to do next? But like I said, the one that I have kind of, with the help of other people, have uncovered, at least the premises of it, very disturbing, like highly disturbing and super tinfoil. But I really need to do some homework on it more. Now, Jean Sarson, Linda McDonald. Jean Sarson, Linda McDonald, two independent sources have verified with me. Okay, I saw that comment. 2 independent sources have verified to me that Linda McDonald and Brenda Bow Forbes have been friends for a long time. A very long time. That's not nothing tinfoil. That's just absolute steering you true. Anybody who wants to dig into that more, please have at. Please send me some details about it. I've dug a little bit. I can't seem to find too much, but people who seem to know other people seem to verify. So yes, this is true. And of course, what did they do? Mid-May. Let's look at that. Brenda Bo Forbes. Actually, she goes by Bo. So let's try Bo Forbes. No, she doesn't go by Bo Forbes even there. Halifax Examiner. 3 events happen. Here we go. Time. This is my nitpicky mind. The time. May 12th. Okay. This was the first appearance of the defense technique of the RCMP, which is going to turn really big here soon. The women's stuff. The divisive tactic. Please focus your effort on the quote-unquote psychopath. Right? Please focus on the psychopath. May 12th. Okay, mid-May. 1 month later, 1 month into the story, we had 3 developments. 3. We had the coming out of Mr. Jowdry, which I'm not passing judgment. I'm simply noting. The coming out of Mr. Jowdry. Same time. We had Bo Forbes. Same time. And we had pictures of a now completely and destroyed warehouse emerge, which has been leveled for over a month at this point in time, that are supplied, is the photo credit, supplied to the media. You know, one where it's like the picture's conveniently taken at a very interesting framed angle. It's done through the banister, the railing on the upstairs stairs, and so you can see the car, but you can only see kind of the car. Enough details in there that way back, Rage in the Cage was like, there's a radar, there's a a rear-facing radar gun in this. There's some really heavy-duty equipment in this car that are not available to civilians. Like the uniforms and badge. But you missed all the rest of it, right? Because it's carefully chosen and then supplied to the media. But we had this emergence of this person, psychopath. Let's see her credentials. Of course, I'm going to get in shit here because I'm a guy and I'm wading into this one. I'm wading into dangerous territory as a guy, but that's the purpose. You have to think and understand the strategy of why they're doing what they're doing. Okay, so if we do, I don't have a very big folder. I haven't organized my stuff yet. But if we go to, I think there's a brand of Bo Forbes. Sort by name. What is her occupation? Okay, oops, sorry, that's the husband. Why do I have this one? Okay, sorry, this is some studying I'm doing. Okay, so what is her occupation? She's D&D, right? D&D. I don't have the LinkedIn. I don't know why. Somewhere. Okay, she's D&D. Her husband, George, Okay. George, also D&D. Right? Understands guns very well. They like to use that. They're like, oh, we understand guns. Yeah, you also understand and have been trained on how to take people down. You knew how to do lots of things, and you didn't do anything. You saw this stuff going on, but you didn't do anything. The cast of characters in this story, as it is always, is very small. Very small. You can seriously put them down, and I think, I don't know how many we're up to, probably outside of what took place on the 18th and 19th. It's the people subsequent to that. How many people do you have? A few. Like, very few. So you have one lady who comes out, and she's like, oh, he's an absolute psychopath. This is not supported by Mr. Zinnick, who has a very big bone to pick. Mr. Zinnick, of course, was the person who Mr. Wortman ripped off for everything, save the shirt, underwear, and pants and shoes that he had that day. That's it. All of his clothes, everything. He took his house. He swindled him huge. And yet, he said, nobody was afraid of this guy. He was not a violent man, to the best of my knowledge. I would think he has a very big motive to say that this person was very bad, aside from the fact that he's, this raging killer, right? He's got a big bone to pick, but no, he doesn't say that. He doesn't say that. He says, I'm not aware of anything like that. But you have two people, as in the Forbes in this particular one, who come forward. But where did Bo Forbes come from? Let's see. Maybe they haven't altered this article. I believe I saved it. Let's have a read through it. Let's to reminisce. Okay? And those of you who are not familiar with this story, I will post the link in the comments. You can file it away for yourselves. My Lord, my English. What is going on here? Next, I'll be having hair like Mr. Trudeau. That would be a problem. Let's make sure I'm archived this article. I'm pretty sure I usually try. Again, I encourage you all. What the hell is this? Near archive. What is this? No. Archive.ie. Oh, now they've renamed it. Oh, no. I don't understand what this... Oh, no. Uh-oh. Search by year. Oh, no. Well, I'm going to have to play around with this. I really hope. It looks like somebody did something, took over them. Things aren't going to disappear. Oh. I take screenshots of stuff, but all right, let's read this. He was a psychopath. This is a pretty heavy, hefty line. Who can call somebody else a psychopath? Who can call somebody a psychopath? Diagnose a psychopath. Psychiatrist? Right? Psychiatrist can. Psychologist can. Okay? I don't believe Brenda Bo Forbes has either degree. It's a bit of a misnomer to say, quote, he was a psychopath. No. You can't say that. A former resident of Portapic says she called RCMP to tell them the gunman assaulted her domestic partner and had illegal weapons. Police took no action. This is the best article on Brenda Bo Forbes to date that I'm aware of. Yes, there's the little interviews and things like that. And what does that say about Seamus's comes on count? Oh. My girlfriend was making, her girlfriend's daughter, she made this little card. I didn't want to read it. I'm going to put it in an intro. Steve made the new intro, by the way. I was just going to try it out here today. Very, very kind of him. He made a couple of them. I'm going to try and maybe add a couple things, which I don't like to do because, somebody else's work. But I'm going to try and make it more diverse. So we'll stick some quotes in there and some good stuff that people are saying. But it was very nice of him to make that because it's awesome. And I'll try and keep the basic premise of the intro. This article contains graphic descriptions of assault. Quote, "That son of a bitch is dead." That was the first thing Bo thought of when she heard on April 19th that the RCMP had killed a man who had gone on a murderous rampage in Nova Scotia, leaving 23. The murder spree started in the village of Portapique in Mena Basin, where Bo once lived. Bo now lives in Western Canada. She granted a telephone interview to the Examiner, but asked to be only identified by her name. So here she is just going by Bo, and we'll get her in a little bit coming out with her name. And then, you all know, but this is Bo. Bo now. In part because she fears for her safety. This is like the Frank question. You're investigating a dead man. Bo fears for her safety from a dead man. Bo, who is a lifelong soldier, been trained how to kill people with her hands. Her husband knows how to kill people with her hands, or his hands. Very afraid, living in a different province, of a dead man. Not too afraid a few days later, probably because the idea of this anonymous business, Bo, didn't sail over so well, so we got to pass a name along now. Oh, well, my name's Brenda Forbes. I just go by Bo. We've confirmed her identity and other details in association, and this is not a bash on Halifax Examiner. Tim Bousquet, amazing. Paul Palango, amazing. It's not it. I'm just, we need to be careful what's going on here. This is a psychological war that's going on. We've confirmed her identity and other details in association with Portapique. We are identifying the gunman known as GW in quotation marks, Gabriel Wortman, because Bo identifies him by name. Okay, I'll call him by name also because I don't want to fall prey to the request of Mr. Trudeau. Again, very intentional. Please forget his name. Please forget what he looks like. Please delete his pictures. Please don't say anything about him in the paper. So it drifts away. And then you forget about it. Because then you're not going to help those people down there. Right? This is gonna get really steamy here soon. It's going to turn up. Woo! Oh. They think that they're on the losing end, I think, but I'll tell you, these people in these think tanks have really ratcheted this one up. They got every fucking plan and they're pulling out every single thing, like things I didn't even think of. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Scary just to get this to go away. Bo said that soon after she and her husband met Gabriel Wortman, when he first came to Portapique, they concluded he was, in their estimation, their Department of Defense estimation, soldier estimation, not trained in psychotherapy, in psychiatry, because she can't go and give him pills with her high school education. No. Their estimation. Planned? Oh, yeah. This part. I'm just restating some things, but I know people don't want to go back some of that stuff. It was because of Gabriel Wortman that she and her husband eventually decided to sell their beautiful home in Portapique and move to Halifax. But even there, she didn't feel safe. I knew he was looking for me, and I was afraid to go in the store. I can kill people with my hands, but I'm afraid. I have guns, but I'm afraid. Yeah. So, after how long? This was the thing my girlfriend, who's kind of familiar with this stuff, sadly, as in abuse. So after how long? Oh, 3 years. Because she's so terribly terrified. Gray cells. Come on. You know, there's no fucking way. If she's so afraid, she should be like, you know, they should have picked somebody who was very soft and maybe single or something. No, you pick somebody who's in the defense forces, who is married to somebody in the defense forces, who comes up with this fucking crock of shit, because probably it's the only person you can come up with, because there's not somebody. Right? Any of the women in here, please tell me, please, if you were so terrified every day that you were going to run into them in a different city, would you live there for 3 years? Hopefully I'll get some great women, because there's lots of good women. Women are not buying into the shit. She and her husband packed up and moved west. But the awful experience of Gabriel Wortman never left her. She said she's been interviewed many times by the RCMP shit team since the mass shooting. How convenient. How convenient. Again, I apparently heard contact with somebody who has definitely a horse in the race. Not as much as some, and has been dealing with somebody in the shit. Frankly, because they have the courage now, and they phone, and they're like, what the hell is going on? And that person was very nice and wanted to answer questions. And funnily enough, some of the answers that he provided this person were very good. So I'm not labeling. I don't want to. You can't label everything. But we have to understand who is the shit, who are they responsible to, are they independent, etc. Right? Not getting a response about the women's stuff. Oh, do hope, please say something in the chat or in the comments below if you're watching this later. Please let other women know, because we all need to be informed of the truth. I'm a guy. I don't know what it's like to be a woman and be abused. I really don't. I do know what it's like to be abused, but, you know, I don't understand that side of it. But if you work in D&D, you're trained your entire life to be a killer. Your husband is too. You're going to be afraid? Doesn't make sense. She said, okay. She has also reached out to Linda McDonald and Jeannie Sars, whose self-funded campaign, Persons Against Non-State Torture, aims to combat the torture of women and girls that's driven by what? Look familiar? Misogyny? McDonald and Sarson were signatories to a recent statement on the Nova Scotia mass shooting by 7 Nova Scotia feminists fighting femicide, calling for an inquiry with a feminist analysis of violence. You watch. This one is kind of out there. We have McCollum out. Who's going to be replacing her? Linda McDonald? Good chance. Somebody who is in that camp. Do you think it was planned? As in, oh, well, if this backfires, this is what we're going to do. No more review. Okay, we'll move it over to an inquiry. We'll move the same 3 people over. Oh, we'll have to get more feminist stuff in there, so we'll put somebody else in there. Somebody that's with the game plan. Now, I don't know if it's just because it's helpful to their cause or they're in on it. But I do know this came from one place. Seriously, go back to the top of the fucking Discord and you'll see. I'm like, what the fuck is this stuff, man? What is this? So we got already the preparation for an inquiry with a feminist analysis. When is this dated? That's right, May. Where are we at now? Let me check. Oh, that's right. We're in August. They've been sitting around planning this whole fucking thing the whole fucking time. And they have many more plans that are yet to be announced and come on. And it will. I assure you. Don't fall prey to this garbage. There are lots of ways that these groups can, funnily enough, be helping out women who are abused. I would say, why don't we have protests for women that are abused by RCMP members? How about the burying, I forget that poor lady up in Truro, where did that case go? Somebody else have it for me? It's a case up in Truro with the letter of the lady that was murdered. The lady that was murdered reported it to the RCMP. They didn't take her seriously. They besmirched her. And then they said, oh, no, we never received anything. And the defense, the plaintiffs, I believe, because I believe is suing the RCMP. Somebody have the link for me, please. I would really appreciate it. You guys in your great minds. I have it filed away somewhere, but I mean, good luck finding it. The amount of articles I have is crazy. Let's see. Court. Note. Letter. God, they buried it, eh? Fuck them. Man. Seriously. Ooh. Where is this article? RCMP lied in court about it. And they said, no. So there, funnily enough, is something actually women's groups could be fighting for. Hey, we've got a problem. You keep telling women. I've heard that all over the place. I've heard from many women. It would probably be the second most spoken about thing to me privately is about the abuse and how RCMP don't take it seriously, whether it's spouses of RCMP members who are abusing them, right? Very tragic. And this seems to get buried. Or people who report things and then they get told to shut the fuck up, like, don't say anything, this and that. Not saying all of them. Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Nova Scotia citizen. You see? This is why it's not good to censor. I can fly off the handle and be like, Rah! And be like, Nova Scotia citizen, you lose your shit. Nova Scotia citizen maybe has dug up the article here. Thank you. Awesome. I need all the help I can get. Hopefully I'm going to get a couple people volunteering to help me with some stuff. But let's see if this is the one. Aha. Thank you. I believe this is it. I don't believe I've ever read the Examiner one, but I will try and find it. File it away. So thank you very much, Nova Scotia citizen. Court documents contradict RCMP denial that they ignored Susie Bootland's pleas before she was murdered. Right? Thank you, Nova Scotia. Thank you. September 17th, 2017, Susie Bootland was murdered by her neighbor, Junior Dugan. Okay, now it's not necessarily a spousal abuse issue, but she was afraid. Harassment. In fact, Susie's friends, Suzanne Davis, told the Examiner that Bootland was ignored by the RCMP, and just 3 days before Bootland's murder, an RCMP officer told Bootland that her allegations against Dugan made her, and not Dugan, a menace to society, and sent her on her way. What the fuck? You want to come out and relabel, repost this garbage? You want to have protests, and yet the very institution that you're trying to help contributed to the murder of this lady and lied about it in court. if these femicide groups and feminist groups really want to make some effective change, I would say refocus your efforts. And I would perhaps remind them of that. And if you're a woman, because coming from me doesn't mean shit. It just means that I'm a misogynist, which is very convenient. You know? Well, I wouldn't be in this world without my mom. And frankly, I wouldn't be where I am at all. Because it was nothing but women in my family. My dad was a shitbag and was out. Not that he was totally out, but he was just a total shitbag. Lawyers and lawyers getting divorced. Very bad. So, do something effective. I lived with my mom my entire life, and my grandmother and my sister, and all highly educated, multi-professional women. Women didn't even usually graduate from high school back in my grandmother's time. She was a lawyer and did a lot of shit. Now, I'm not saying that as a braggart. I'm saying I grew up respecting women very much. Not this feminist stuff. My grandmother was very upset with that because she believed in individuality and the accomplishments that people can make using their brain and not their sex, race, or anything else. You just can do it because you can do it. Because God gave you that gift. So why are these women running around sowing fucking bullshit here? Right? It's all planned. This organization, very interesting. And again, I'm not trying to besmirch McDonald or Sarson. I don't particularly understand what they do. It's more on an international level. But this is how this came about. Linda McDonald, Bo, at this point in time, because she's so afraid, right? Because her killer is dead a month. Or, sorry, not her killer. I'm sorry. The man, the psychopath that she was so afraid of, that she lived in the same area, the same, because it's going to say how long she lived there, right? She lived there, maybe it does in this one. Yeah, 2004, and she moved when I can't remember. She lived there. She moves down to Halifax, D&D trained, and she's so terrified. Like, come on. This is not rocket science. Yeah, it did. It did. Women like that. Lots of women do. There's nothing wrong with it. You get treated well, and you should get treated well, because it's a respect thing. Not because you're weak, just because we like to do nice things for women. Oh no, that's terrible. They weaponized everything. Sad. We're so sad. So sad. They use the good nature, the honesty of people against themselves. That's why we trust. That's why we look at the stuff and it's confusing. Well, why would you do this shit? Because you're involved and it's quite serious. And I don't care. Call it this. Because have the proof. Sorry. Proof. Proof talks. An inquiry with a feminist analysis of violence. Destruction of the family is very important. Yes. Hello, oh dear. Sorry, I'm going to bring up their article because I like to support oh dear. Oh, this one's even better. You guys, wow, it's good, eh? Look at what you do. Fucking amazing. Insufficient grounds. Susie Bootland repeatedly pleaded with RCMP to intervene to stop her neighbor Junior Dugan from harassing her. I get told I mispronounce everything, so my apologies. You guys can have a good laugh at me. From harassing her, police took no action. Friend says RCMP officer told Bootland her allegations against Dugan made her and him, not him, a menace to society. 3 days later, a Dugan killed Bootland. Please start bombing. Please start, women, please. I plead with you. Please start bombing these articles and such on these organizations. Start reminding them of the RCMP violence. Many of you who live in Nova Scotia, in fact, don't even live in Nova Scotia, right? Know what a serious problem this is. Again, we're talking about a crowd of bad actors within the RCMP and a systemic problem that's rooted in their culture. Help them. Help those great officers out, because they're the heroes that need support, but they're afraid. You're not afraid. I'm certainly not afraid. So help them. Let them know. Because as the story has progressed, and as I truly, truly pray and hope every night, literally, go to bed thinking about this, wake up, dream about it, just day in and day out, I pray that this path will continue. If people let up and say, thank you, we're done here with the inquiry, 8-10 months down the line, I can guarantee you those families who don't see what's going on are really going to be, oh shit, what do we do now? We don't have the support. Well, let's get out there and rally for it. And, oh, the GW and the no pictures, whew, people forget about it. They get piped full of bubbles and COVID and killer bees and anything and everything but. And you can't get it back. You got momentum. Stick with it. Stay the course. Remember your target. What do you want? Answers. Does that have anything to do with what other people are talking about? Even if it were in fact true, what do the families really want? Does a woman who has a woman who's been killed in the story, does that negate the men who've been killed? But to me, they're kind of the same. If we're thinking about equality, two different people biologically have been harmed. All of those families feel the same. Pain, loss, and confusion. it is imperative upon us. If the families tell me to go F myself, yeah, then I'm going to have to reconsider. I know where this can go, and you guys can do this event can seriously change so many things. People's perceptions of themselves, understanding that they are empowered, government's responsibility, etc., etc. You'll start making people who are your employees shit their pants. Because, well, we don't want the people angry. They aren't as nailed down as we once thought. And they're going to watch out for each other, and we can't keep screwing them. It doesn't matter if they don't know each other, because they're going to stick up for each other. They're going to stick up for truth and goodness. They're not going to let themselves get beaten down. No matter how much we traumatize them. Thank you very much to both of you, Nova Scotia citizen, and thank you to our good friend Odeer for linking those. Thank you all, always, right? That I thank everybody. I don't mean to single people out, but it's important to acknowledge contributions because it's tough. Free, you're giving your time. We're giving our time, right? There's nothing here but just good natured goodness. You guys are all contributing. Boom. Boom. The confusion is the worst. Yeah. It's just hard to accept. It's hard to accept these things. There is evil in this world. Nobody wants to believe it. I want to believe everybody's good. Sad reality is that he's not. Hey, Dave. Oh, okay. I'm going to have to see if I can check that out and find it. Nighttime podcast. You have a link, possibly, Dave? Help a poor man out. Just as I'm being helped with articles. My memory is becoming a bit of a problem. Bo recounted to MacDonald, it always was, and Sarson, the history of her terrifying actions with Gabriel Workman, and especially the extreme concern over the way he was able to repeatedly abuse his common law spouse. After Bo spoke with him, MacDonald, what? After MacDonald asked, Bo spoke with them, MacDonald asked if she would share her story with the examiner. Who wanted to share her story? Who? Oh, is that Billy Joyce? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, okay. Did Bo want to contact the examiner? Bo want to deal with it at the time with her great skills of standing up for what she believes is right and wrong and sees a beating and is trained in this kind of thing and steps in? Did she want to do something? No. Did she live there? Yep. Did she then move to Halifax, where she was apparently terrified every day for 3 years? Yep. Did she wait till the person was dead? A month? Yep. Did she then approach some of her friends. So this is a personal connection. It's like the discount you get, for the mattress or whatever from your friend at the store. It's a bit of a personal favor. Motives, not exactly clean. No. You dig around in Brenda. I think there's going to be some issues. Not saying that she's a bad person. I don't want to pass judgment on people. Try not to. There is something very stinky going on. And May, they're already saying. An inquiry for having this analysis of violence. That's not, we need to worry about who got killed, what the RCMP did wrong. What that is all about. The name that they don't want to say in the paper, Gabriel Wortman, they want you to go there temporarily to ascribe all of the wrongdoing that day. Because of course, Gabriel Wortman was the one that didn't get caught, right? He was the one that was fucking up, catching himself. He was not fucking up. I have to catch myself. This is intentional. I'm trying to help people see this. It's intentional. Sure, there's some mistakes. Was it Gabriel Wortman who called in New Brunswick? No. Wasn't. Was it Gabriel Wortman who told Amherst? No. No, it wasn't. Was it Gabriel Wortman who contacted Kinsella and said, please don't send your officers north of the airport? No, it wasn't. Was it Gabriel Wortman visiting himself on multiple occasions? No, it wasn't. Was it Gabriel Wortman who investigated the report about the weapons that were hid behind the where? Oh, told. Right. Where exactly they are? Was it Gabriel Wortman that supplied himself the uniforms? No, it wasn't. Was it Gabriel Wortman that supplied himself the badge? No, it wasn't. Do you see where I'm going with this? Apples and oranges. Apples and oranges. All the RCMP. Exactly. All RCMP. You can't investigate a dead man. You can. But what the fuck are you going to get? What are you going to get? Maybe a little bit here, maybe a little bit here. Is that going to change when this problem happens again? No. No. Feminist analysis isn't going to change whether we have a Moncton. Feminist analysis didn't change the Picton. This is very intentional. Okay, we're gonna try and get this off. How do we do this? Okay, we'll change it into something that can't be attacked. Okay, so we'll build that extra shield, just like we'll use our own member who died, murdered. We'll use her and her family. We'll manipulate that one too. The corruption and the deceit and the levels that these people are going to. You. We have to be real here. RCMP is us. We're responsible for them. They've gone rogue for a long time, and nobody's kept them in check, like the government. They do what they're told. And it isn't for you, because we got 23 dead people. And I know it's 23 because Mr. Beaton missed out on a piece of his family. Right? Come on, people. Let's be responsible. It's okay. It's okay to be responsible. It's okay to make mistakes. We've let this one go. We have. It is incumbent upon us as responsible, honest, moral human beings to rein it in. Say that's it. We're done here. No more. No more. Hey, Beth, how's it going? After Bo spoke with them, McDonald asked her if she would share her story with the examiner. A month later, because she was so concerned. And she's so afraid of a dead man. This is a well-crafted strategy. Very decent chess play. If you're not used to chess. If you play chess, it really sucks balls. Women, please, 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 because I understand men start doing it, you're going to get labeled. This is why Monsef was moved over to status of women. Honestly, that's why. She took a demotion. It was a big demotion for her. Trudeau wanted her safe, insulated. Build the insulation. There's lots of these examples all over the world. I'm very familiar with a few. You build the insular thing. Stevenson's one. Feminist is another. You know. And another one. They're gonna ratchet it up here. They're really gonna ratchet it up. So please contact them. Send them the articles. Let's you got those articles out there, right? Copy that, drop those articles. That, thank you, Nova Scotia citizen. Thank you to, oh dear. Where was the other one? Please go and drop them. Maybe take screenshots of them so that people don't have to necessarily, you can take a screenshot and also put the link in, right? Go and drop them on Linda McDonald. Go drop them on all these feminist groups. The abortion one down in Halifax who deals with lots of other things. But frankly, in their mandate, nothing to do with homicide, nothing to do with reform of corruption in government. Deals with Black Lives Matter, LGBT, or other things in the salad, but not the one that the families want. That's why the families, I believe, and I have at least on somewhat of an understanding, did not go. They don't want this. They understand, but they're looking for answers. So I understand they want people in their corner. Hell, I want them too. But you want people that are genuine, that aren't there for ulterior motives, aren't there actually subverting you. Because there's reams of them, reams of us here. Somebody sent me a link apparently to some show down in the United States. I don't know it. And there was a very nice man talking about problems in Canada. And he and his wife, I messaged him afterward because I'm like, well, what the I mean, again, I was like, he mentioned this channel? And he said, you guys want to know anything about Nova Scotia? You go there. You go to Little Grey Cells. Those people know what the fuck is going down. Over 250,000 people. Pretty amazing. You're strong enough. You're smart enough. I believe in you. I believe in myself. Ain't nothing gonna fucking hold me back. I think that was on the... Yeah, I'll read you that. I'll read you. This was such a touching, beautiful thing. Dear Seamus, I hope you like the card. I worked very hard on it. I like that you help people to find out the truth because you, sorry, I need glasses. Not her terrible writing. Very good. Because you should never have to live in a lie. This is a 9-year-old, right? Wow. I also like that you never give up, no matter what challenge life throws at you. And I like that about you. Okay? She goes on to say some very nice things. I didn't solicit her. I was like, whoa. She made fun of my hair. But this is so good because she sees it. Strength, perseverance, no matter the adversity, conviction, staying true to what you believe in. We all are fighting for that. And we need to continue because it helps people. Nothing wrong with helping people. These people don't want to help you. They simply don't. Sadly. It's an acceptance. It's a reality. Where are they coming from? Is it unbelievable amounts? You know, there's the cognitive disconnect in your head. You can't keep saying to yourself, well, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. They keep making a lot of mistakes all over the place for decades. How could this possibly be? Unless there's something else going on, which there is. Stay strong. Stay the course. Support these people. People are getting stronger. More and more are coming up. Every day. The phone call to CERT from this person showed me that. Because they were afraid before. And they aren't any longer. They're willing to ask the tough questions. Where is the report? What is going on? What are you people doing? Block, man. I was like, the strength of people to be trust. Okay, I'm not going to get screwed maybe in this one. I have been screwed a lot of times. Maybe I can say something and that person might not fuck me this time. Maybe. So I'm going to try again. And it takes a while to work ourselves. That's the, it's like having a friend. You don't run around with neon signs about who you are and everything in your life. You have to work at it. I didn't show that because I don't like to say things. Like, it's just about, like, I really don't. I don't like discussion on anything to do with me. But I liked the message. The message. Because I know she's getting it. She's getting it. Ain't nobody going to fuck her around. And as long as I'm around, and as long as I see people in my life, other people, doesn't matter if I know you, doesn't matter if I don't. If you're telling the truth, you believe in something good, I'll try and have your back as much as possible. Just like we all would, and we should. Because that's our nature. That's the way we're built. No matter how much they've destroyed us. No matter what life throws at you. No matter what life throws at you. No matter what challenges life throws at you. Who likes a fucking coward? I don't. Even in my younger days. I never liked a coward. I never liked a person who would run away, who would abandon somebody. No, I'm not going to give up. Please. Nor are you. Nor are you. And it gets hard. It gets tough. Up and down. I know somebody's also in here. Up and down. You can do it. We will do it. Please buy this to support him. It may not be 100%. I might not be 100%. Bob Lango may not be 100%. I'm certainly not 100%. But we have to support good things and defeat bad things. That's the way it works. I think that's the principle of liking and stuff like that, I think. I don't know. Who knows? Though it's a bunch of a game. It only takes one or two. Yeah, it does. It does. My grandma taught me that. One day, maybe one day I'll talk about her. I have a little bit, but she taught me certain things. You only need one or two. You got to have a good brain. You got to have a vision. You got to stay true to what you want. And, she did stuff that made changes, right? So she said to me very young, you have to have a good editor. Somebody that's in your corner, because you got to swing people. The system will work against you. But you can do it. She was right. Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you to all of you for your support. You give me strength. Hopefully I give you some. Hopefully I can contribute in some way. I would like to organize the Discord a little bit better. I'm not a very organized person, and my brain is a flood with a lot of stuff. So it's hard to keep track of everything. Because we got lots of people. 21. Let's see, where are we at now? 316. 316 people. Pretty amazing. Starts with, what did you say, Dawn? 1, 2. But it wasn't that, right? Because you had the Facebook groups doing their thing, plugging away. You had 40 Gallon doing his thing, still doing his thing. You had Frank, somewhat doing his thing. Definitely getting booted out of stuff and asking the really important questions and showing people, holy shit, man. Yeah, these are great questions. Frank is an interesting entity. But good. Just a different way of doing things. And that's the way it's all going to work. I can see a vision. And my vision is as follows. And Mr. Palango's on board. And he's like, oh, well, I absolutely thought that, of course. So great people think like this. Not that I'm great at all. What you do is there's going to be, I guess, probably some people who are, I don't like those words. They're working together more so. I don't know how to phrase that. I don't want to be derogatory or deprecating upon anybody. I don't, because you all work hard. But the trust maybe is developed with certain other people. Mr. Palango has his sources, and maybe I have a couple here and there. And work together up there, and then we have people who work in groups studying different topics, digging on different topics. And that's their topic. And that's what they know. So I could turn around and say, listen, there's some stuff I want to know about the girlfriend. Hint. Let's dig around and find what we can find. Who is she? Where did she live? Who are her associates? Not trying to dox, not trying to shame. Nobody should ever do these kinds of things. There is nothing. You never want to do anything violent. You never want to do anything illegal. But learn as much as you can. And then we do the meetings kind of once a week. We've got the Zooms started. In their last minutes, I'm sorry. It's hard. Steve's a tough one to get nailed down. It's harder with him because he has kids and he's doing his stuff. He's a really great dad. So it's a little bit tougher. But he's like, if any of this stuff, I know it's really important. Like, I'm going to try and as much as I can to make room for it. And it doesn't mean that he has to be there all the time, or I have to be there all the time, or Adrian has to be there all the time. And then those meetings, I work with audio much better than I do with reading. I do read, but I don't like, say, the Discord. The Discord's a lot of stuff, right? And kind of sum up every week. Here's what I found. Here's what I can add. And then we build on top of that. Just keep building. And we get a dossier together. Because I know a bunch of you have said, very reasonably, absolutely 100%. 100%. Because that's where I want to go, is that you get as much hard proof, not speculative, that either these things that you have said, RCMP, are a very big problem. Thank you. Thank you. These things are a very big problem. RCMP, you need to answer the following questions. Let's give them to the lawyer. Hey, here we go. Here's a whole bunch of evidence that maybe we've uncovered that there's stuff that's very awry, or here are the facts. Give that to the lawyer, because you know that no matter that they have private investigators who do this for a job, as much help as anybody can get is good. Some of it's going to be redundant. Some of it's going to be new stuff. And you give that, then the families can do something with it. And we can get things more surmised. Because, well, as somebody said, I do talk for hours. But there's a lot of stuff. It's character building kind of that I'm looking at. And self-empowerment, re-identification. Maybe a lot of it's assertive self. When I speak, it's to myself too. So I stay clear. And then, there's lots of facts. Lots of facts. And there's lots of disinformation floating around. That's very intentional. So, I do encourage you to have a fantastic day, always, and be good to one another. Please continue to do the hard work. At the same time, please continue to take good care of yourself. This is kind of, I sound like I'm, something, I'm not that typical, whatever, guy. I'll get down and dirty though. Don't worry about it. But there's other things that we need to stay focused on. And being real is one of them. Now, I want to thank you. I do hope that you have a super, super day. Well, they want you to do that. Careful, Tara. Careful. They're trying to do that. Just don't touch it. And point out to them. I'm not saying. We don't, maybe some of us have some beliefs and maybe some of us don't. But you can drop those articles on them and people look at them, like the little screenshots of those headlines, and people will be like, huh? Well, why did we? And you ask just the questions, the gray cell questions. Well, why do you not have a review on this? And it comes from a woman. And then other women look at it and they're like, yeah, that does. Why aren't you looking at that? We refocus it, spin it, because they're doing lots of, and they're going to come out. They're going to come out. That's all I can really say. And it's going to be not good. But it's okay, because we can handle it. Lots of 3D chess players here. Boom! It is ginger. Oh my. Hitters! All right. Hitters sent me some awesome stuff this morning. See, it's just so many different avenues. All right. So have a super fantastic day. I won't keep you any longer. Be good to one another. God bless.